Today we're going to learn how to draw Anime Maid and a Butler. Before we start, make sure to check out the latest lessons and limited edition perks on Patreon. Hello fellow unicorns, welcome to another tutorial about drawing clothes, and before we start I need to remind you guys that you need to draw out a human body before putting clothes on the body. The clothes on your character is drawn like a force field and will add some volume to your character, and there's nothing wrong with that. If you're not sure how to draw a proper anatomy for a female and male manga body, make sure to check out my tutorials on this, link down below and in this video. Do you have a favorite anime maid or butler? If you do, please share in the comments down below. Anime maids and butlers were inspired by Victorian fashion and servants, but with a modern twist to their clothing. I will be drafting out with a technical pencil some of the outlines of their clothing and then doing the final lines with a fine liner. All of my tools and art supplies will be linked down below. This butler's design was influenced by my very own favorite butler from anime, Sebastian from Black Butler. Did you know that male and female shirts actually buttoned on the opposite ways? The reason is very simple. Buttons were invented in 13th century when only the rich people could afford them. Men were used to buttoning their own shirts, while women had their maids button their shirts. This is why male shirts and jackets are folded from left to right, just as it's seen here. When drawing a butler of this type, it's very important to represent him as a neat person. This type of butler always has to have a neat cravat or a tie around his neck, and as well as a very neat collar. There are few lines to make your design even more successful, and these are the following lines. You will need a line that will connect your sleeve to the rest of your shirt, and there is a line that goes straight across his vest and pants. This line symbolizes that his pants are neatly ironed and that it has a very old-fashioned and elegant design. Drawing gloves on this character is an extremely important detail, which means the butler has a very high regard of elegance and hygiene. An important tip is that when you're drawing gloves on a character, you still need to draw the hand underneath the glove and then add up the volume and creases around each knuckle. Now let's talk about the female character design. If you want to create a cute maid outfit and a cute maid character, it's important to give them some sort of a cute headband or a maid cap to go with their uniform. You can combine this look with a Victorian high collar with a cute little bow. You can mix and design different types of collars and bows, and even a cravat for the female character, as well as combining different types of aprons. I personally have used a design inspired by Victorian collars and sleeves in the mix with some regular Japanese restaurant hostess uniform. It's a fascinating difference between Western and Eastern types of uniforms, because this type of uniform might have been considered a little bit of an offensive design in the Western world. This is due to the cultural differences between West and East, where this area with some thigh showing is definitely something that Westerners might find a bit offensive or not appropriate. The reason for this is the absolute territory, or the Zetai Ryoki, which is a term coined by the otaku community, with the area of the thigh being shown as the symbol of purity, innocence, and cuteness. This is a very important part of the aesthetics of many manga characters in anime and manga. Speaking about the aesthetics of the characters, there's so many different things you can try out while designing your own maid character. You can definitely go with different types of bows, different types of sleeves. Usually these sleeves are very long and have a lot of tiny frills. And when you're coloring the character, you should definitely try your best to create the character that's a pure symbol of cuteness, purity, and maybe do some blushing type of coloring on their cheeks, on their fingertips, and even on the showing thigh area. This is something that's considered to be pure and innocent, just as these hostesses in real life Japan are. And speaking of real life Japan, if you ever get a chance to go to Japan, you can definitely check out one of the places called maid cafes or butler cafes, where butlers and maids can definitely create an atmosphere of enjoyment and maybe a Victorian time that has gone by to serve you tea and play games with you and enjoy in an otaku atmosphere if you're into that sort of stuff. The real problem with this is that a lot of Westerners do not really understand that the concept is purity and definitely nothing vulgar. And sometimes if anybody crosses the line or starts touching the hostesses or hosts, they are bound to be banned from that place forever. So that's quite a fun fact and a bit of a tip if you ever go to Japan. Maids and butlers are considered to be pure hosts in Japan. They are there to keep you entertained, to give you an atmosphere of a fantasy world, and that's pretty much it. And their aesthetics can be so very different, but there are few rules regarding their clothes that are always the same. They will always be as neat as possible. They will rarely contain anything that's considered vulgar. For example, maids don't usually have a big cleavage included if we're talking about regular maids in anime or anime aesthetics. Anime aesthetics doesn't really consider cleavage area to be anything that's important or attractive. So the more important and attractive bit is definitely the zetai ryoki that we were talking about, and over knee socks are an element that you will see almost all the time in Japan and Asian aesthetics, because they consider it to be something that's way more beautiful than tight skirt or shirt or cleavage. And these differences in aesthetics are something that personally fascinates me, and that is always a main reason why there is such a difference between beautiful characters in anime and beautiful characters in the Western pop culture. As for the shading, as you can see, the shading is supposed to be anime-like and purely simple. There are only these little creases and triangles and a little bit of a shading on the side of each sleeve that we're using our gray marker for, and nothing more. The minimalism of the shading on these types of clothing and characters are what makes them so anime-like. And I'm using a little bit of a gradient to create this character's hair. A vibrant hair color is always important if you want to have an impactful manga or anime character, and I personally think that gradients are very fascinating in the hair. Not that my own hair is not different. As for the hair shape in the characters, you should definitely give the girls some sort of a hair shape that's more of a demure one, like a flowing waterfall, and less than a firecracker shape. If you're interested on what I'm talking about, and if you're interested on learning the different types of hair and how to create your own hairstyles without actually tracing or going after other characters' art, you can definitely check out my video on how to draw manga hair. There I explain in extensive detail how to create your own anime hairstyles and what the secrets of constructing an anime hairstyle are. As for this character, I have been using the same exact skin shade just like on the female character, but I'm using them not for blushing, but just for the shaded areas. This way you can reuse the same markers and save up on markers if you're using markers. If you're not using markers, any type of coloring tool will do. As for his color chart, we have a very simple color chart for these types of characters, it's usually something that's black and white. Sometimes you can add something that's like red, or a red bow, or a red accessory, or a red button. Maybe if this character is not just simply a butler but a host at the restaurant, sometimes they will get a long black apron, because this is something that's like considered to be very stylish for people working in restaurants or as serving food establishments. So but usually black and white is the usual way to go. You can definitely experiment with some gray details, maybe gold details if it's something like Sebastian from Black Butler, because definitely he has some chains and accessories and badges that are gold, and gold was considered a status symbol in the old days, a very important status symbol. So you can definitely add up on your butler design, play around with your designs, and I hope you like this video. And don't forget to check out my Patreon page for this month's limited edition Maids and Butler set. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you would like to learn how to draw manga, please check out my book Manga Crash Course, available in 4 different languages, as well as my latest book Manga Crash Course Fantasy.